Well, hello and good evening, and welcome to episode 23. I know of Shelf Analysis. How are you? My name is Rick O'Shea. Welcome to my kitchen. I've moved back into the kitchen tonight, although I'm starting to wonder whether or not that was a key decision because it's very bright in here, and as a result of which, as you can see, it makes my head look shinier than usual. It's been a while because we didn't have one on Monday night because I was on a night off. So Wednesday and Thursday of last week were the last episodes we had. If you got a chance, go back, have a look at them if you get the chance, particularly the Thursday night one, which was my birthday this night last week, in which Sebastian Barry took out a guitar and sang happy birthday to me. No pressure on tonight's guest at all under any circumstances. How is all? Is everything going okay for you? Hope so. You can drop comments below here. We might be able to ask questions of our guests tonight a little bit later on, as well as all of this is happening live, both in my house and in hers. There's some stuff to tell you about. So news bits we're going to begin with. I'm going to do this because, again, I may have mentioned this last week on the program, but it's something I'm immensely proud of. And again, there's a hat tip involved here to everybody involved in the Courage Festival this year. So many literature, arts festivals of every kind have been cancelled over the course of this year. However, when I was involved in Courage this year, they went, no, not going to do that. Instead, we're going to attempt to take as much of what we have and put it online as we can. And they did. And they put together an incredible bunch of events. You can still go back and have a look at them. If you look up the Courage Festival YouTube channel, you'll find all of the details there. It kind of inspired us to do something similar. This year, I was curating the literary strand of the UCD Festival 2020. In case you don't know, the UCD Festival normally runs on a single day across the campus in UCD. Everything is free. You just turn up. There's somewhere between 130 and 150 events that happen on the day. And this year, we were going to have a strand of literary events, about maybe 6 or 7 of them. They've been pared down ever so slightly, but they're now part of a brand new UCD festival that is happening virtually and online on the weekend of, as you can see here, the 21st to the 23rd of May. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. We've yet to make the announcement as to who's going to be part of that. They are some of the events that we'd already booked up for the festival this year. I hope that you get to be part of it. I hope you're going to be there for some of them. If you're interested, have a look at the bottom, ucd.ie/festival. If you go there, you'll be able to register and they will send you out details of events as they are announced. Everything is free. Everything is happening on the UCD Festival YouTube channel. I hope you get to come along for some of them, and I'm presenting one of them as well, which I think you might enjoy and you might like. Speaking of presenting things, and I love giving a shout out to this because I've done this. This is my third, I think, 4th year now doing the Children's Books Ireland Book of the Year Awards. It's with KPMG this year. Obviously, we can't do it physically. Normally, we would do this somewhere in Dublin. We did the launch in Belfast. Actually, a friend of mine asked me today, what do you remember were the last things you did that were outside Dublin? And at the very end of February, we were in London. We went to the theatre a couple of times. And at the very beginning of March, I was in Belfast for the launch of the Children's Books Ireland Awards for 2020. That was the last. That was the last time I was outside of my house to do anything even vaguely public. But the events this year are the first award ceremony that I've ever presented virtually. I've never done a virtual award ceremony before. This is the very first of them. Although, to be honest with you, I have 2 more of them coming up because apparently now everybody thinks this is a great idea, and fair play to you. So if you're interested, you can join us on the Children's Books Ireland YouTube channel. It's happening Tuesday of next week. That's Tuesday, May 19th at midday for the announcement of the winners this year. You can find out more details about that, of course, at childrensbooksireland.ie. Now, I'm having a quick scan through here to see if there's anything else I need to tell you about. From that, there isn't, apart from, briefly, every time I kind of finish a book, I try to give it a mention out and give it a shout out here. I found my reading mojo again, which is lovely. We've had this conversation here before about the nature of people having reader's block at the moment. I think I've managed to break it up, and I think I've done it with a series of books. I finished this over the course of the weekend. This is Eleanor Fitzsimon's wonderful The Life and Loves of E. Nesbitt, the author of Railway Children. I'll be honest with you, I didn't get into E. Nesbitt's books when I was a kid. I was an Enid Blyton devotee, pretty much. So I never read The Railway Children. I never read anything involving the Bastable Kids. But this book came really highly recommended to me, and rightly so. If you ever come across a biography of somebody whose life and work you don't necessarily really know, but all of a sudden someone has written a book that makes that story compelling and interesting. This is the book. She was one of the founding members of the Fabian Society. She had people like H.G. Wells and George Bernard Shaw as part of her life. She lived the most extraordinary life, both personally and professionally. It's hugely worth your time. And it is, sorry, one more time there. That is The Life and Loves of E. Nesbitt, author of The Railway Children. And that's written by Ireland's own Eleanor Fitzsimons. Tonight, let's see what Karina is reading. Karina is, of course, our main houseplant. She's not the only houseplant in the house. That would imply that we don't have any more. Karina is the main houseplant and the one that does all of the reading in the house. Karina, what have you got? What are you reading for us today? Karina has decided to finally make her way into the world of Will Dean. Karina, how are you doing? All good? Yeah, fine. You're okay. I'm taking that as a positive sign, as per usual. Red Snow is one of Will Dean's books. Is that the second? It is the second in the Tuva Moodyson series. Will is a previous alumni of Shelf Analysis. You'll be able to find Will talking to me from Sweden, from the shed at the bottom of his garden in the middle of a Swedish forest. If you go back and have a look either in the announcements section here in the Ricochet Book Club, or if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you'll find details of it here. Or again on RTE Culture. Also, you'll find it back if you go and have a look through that. I have a chat to Will. So Will Dean's Red Snow. Good. Yeah. I'm not sure how a houseplant figures out whether or not someday. You're not giving me anything with that. I'm gonna leave you there and move on for tonight. If you've never watched Shelf Analysis before, you may or may not know that the idea is we take an author, we talk to them from their house, wherever they may be in the world. Frequently, one of the things I love about this is that it gives me an opportunity to gawp inside other people's houses. They will recommend some books for you to read, as well as we have a quick chat about their current books as well. I am genuinely thrilled tonight to get to talk to somebody who I not only admire and his books I love, but who is a friend of mine as well. At least I like to think so. Hello, Kit Duval. How are you?
Hello, and we are definitely friends, Rick.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
We've started off well tonight. I was thinking before we came on and before we did this, people may have seen us either when we were in Kilmore Quay. We did an event, yourself, myself, and Rob Doyle. Was that last year or the year before? And then in Listowel as well.
Yes.
Stuff for Writers Week down in Listowel too. Tell me a little bit about the beautiful, gorgeous surrounds where you are now.
So just over a year ago, I sold a big family house and downsized to an apartment, quite a big apartment, but it had one massive room and nowhere for me to write. So there was a tiny patio, and this is it. And I had the patio converted into a study. It's got lots of light. It's got brick walls, parquet floor. It is the nicest room in the house, and it was a patio. And I get up every morning and I head straight for this room, whether I'm going to work or not, because it's beautiful, beautiful space.
It is. We had a look through it earlier on when you and I were setting this up, and you went, "Yeah, I'll have a look. I'll show you around where we are." It is a gorgeous space to work in. Is it a typewriter you have on your wall over there?
Yes. Yeah. Just hold on a second. Let's.
Oh, if you want to show me, that'd be super. Okay. Yeah.
So that's the extent of the garden I've got left, which is basically nothing. And that's a wall. And that's another wall, and these are all books here. There's a couple of those chairs, and that's the light. And then this way, that's my living room through there.
Okay. And do you work at the desk that I'm talking to you from right now? This is your workspace right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how the last 5, 6, 7 weeks have been treating you. How have you been getting on?
Right at the beginning of the lockdown, I made the mistake of putting a tweet out that said, "Oh my God, all these festivals are going to cancel. What a shame. Why don't we do something about it?" And the BBC got in touch with me and said, "If you do something about it, we'll pay." And the Arts Council got in touch with me and said, "If you do something about it, we'll pay." So I spent 6 weeks curating the Big Book Weekend, it was called in the end. And it happened just last weekend, which was a bank holiday in the UK. And we had Bernardine Evaristo, Maggie O'Farrell, Alexander McCall Smith, super, super, super duper names. And it ran for 3 days. And I sat on my backside for 3 days, just, making sure it was okay, and in the chat rooms and talking to people. So it was great, but it was also exhausting. And of course, I haven't noticed the last 6 weeks because I've been doing that. And now I've drawn this breath and it's like, hang on, I'm 6 weeks behind with my novel now. So it's been good. Can't complain.
There is and I think I've taken the same thing as well out of it. At the very beginning of this process, I went, I've never done this before. Maybe I should start a chat show with authors so I can talk about their books from my head. And again, there is a point where weeks later you go, how did I end up here?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was like, you've got such a big mouth, Kit. You just jump in and let's do this, let's do that. And then 4 weeks later you go, you idiot. You could have let someone else do it and you would just be watching instead of making phone calls. I am Zoom-tastic now. I can do a Zoom at the drop of a hat. I don't even bother to get dressed. I'm just like, this is me. So it's great. I can't complain. So many people have had it tougher than me. And I live with my 19-year-old son, who I adore, and we get on really well, and he gives me hugs and he's lovely. So, compare, I've got this lovely space. I'm in lockdown with somebody I love, who loves me, who's really funny. I've got enough food. I've got work that, I get paid. And also I'm very lazy. So this suits me in a lot of ways. I think about other people who have got it much tougher than me.
I know you've been busying yourself with that over the last while. In terms of your writing, have you done any, or are you now only starting to turn to and look at that?
So one of the other things that happened as soon as the lockdown started was the Abbey Theatre got in touch with me to write one of the pieces for Dear Ireland. So, and they said, oh, do you want to write something for the theatre? I'm like, of course. And they said, right, you've got a week. And that's not what you want when you're a writer and you think, oh my God, I'm going to have the scrutiny of Ireland, the world, on my writing, and you've got a week. So yeah, it was fantastic. I had the most incredible actor reading my words. You would never have known they weren't his words. He was incredible, Peter Gowan. And that was broadcast, and it was just a lovely, lovely experience. And it was my tribute to Ireland. The whole piece was about the clash of old Ireland, my grandparents, my mother, with the new, strong, loud, modern European Ireland, and what they both think of each other. And it was, beautiful to have that clash and to be representing my grandparents, and also the strength and bravery of Ireland these days.
Would it give you a graw to write more for the theatre?
I would love to. I would love to. I don't think I'd be very good, to be honest. I think I'd be good at a monologue. I don't think I'd be good at, actually writing for theatre. I think that's a really specialist thing, and I don't think it's me. But monologues I can do.
Well, I think before we move into, and I'm going to talk to you just really briefly about stuff you have coming out right now, before we get into allegedly why we're here, which is you recommending books you love. I want to give a quick shout out to the 32 as well, because last year Common People was the project that you put together in the UK, full of working class writers, both those who were slightly better known and those who weren't. And obviously there's an Irish version of it coming out this year, which, bless Paul McVeigh, he has asked me to write a piece for as well, which Paul, I swear it's done. I swear I have it. It's in a folder over there somewhere. I'm getting to the deadline. I am. But that was an extraordinary project that seems to have not only taken wings, where you are, but here as well. Yeah,
it was, again, as a throwaway comment that I made to someone that, oh, we could do this. And other people, I've got to be honest, other people made that happen. Obviously, I drove some of it, but the hard work was done by other people. And it was, as you say, 16 known writers, 16 unknown writers. There's some Irish writers in there too. And we really wanted to replicate it in Ireland. Now, it is different. Class is a different beast in Ireland, completely different markers, completely different attitude to being working class. Definitely hasn't got the snobbery and the clear delineation that there is in the UK. But nevertheless, there is a working class in Ireland, and it is harder to get published, and different life chances. So I can't wait to see the writing that comes through, including yours, Rick.
I can't wait to see mine. Before we get involved in any of this, listen, I know you've got one of those and I've got one of these.
I
So
have.
congratulations on the Big Book Weekend, because
Thank you.
It was an extraordinary triumph. Fair play. What you can't see is Liz, my wife, is over here as well, and she immediately takes a drink while we do as well, which is awesome. I got Jane saying, well, my name is Leon, is one of my all-time favorite books. That come in and comment as well. I just like to, big you up before we get any further. Nicola says, adored The Trick to Time. It's going to stay with me for a long time. And Emily just says, yay, The Trick to Time moved me to a depth of emotion very few books have ever done. It's beautiful and heartbreaking.
Oh, wow.
Told with love.
That's lovely.
I'm going to ask you, though, about things that are both out now and coming out, because you've got both your first YA novel, and then you've got something brand new coming out over the space of the next while as well. Tell me maybe just briefly first about Becoming Dinah.
So Becoming Dinah actually came out late last year. And it's my first YA novel. I was asked by Hachette to write, to reimagine a classic and make it relevant to today's young people. So I chose Moby Dick because there are no women in it at all. And I love it. I love the film adaptations. So Dinah is a girl who's running away from something that she's done wrong. And she teams up with a one-legged man, and they are chasing a camper van. And the camper van contains the one-legged man's false leg. And it sounds like a romp. It's actually quite a serious book. It's quite intense because that's what you're like when between 14 and 19, 14 and 17, you're feeling all these emotions. So it's quite an intense book. I absolutely loved it. It was great. And if you know Moby Dick, there's loads of references that you'll recognize. If you don't know Moby Dick, it's just a good story.
And I think one of those things that's happened very frequently, certainly here in the Ricochet Book Club over the last while, is people looking for recommendations for kids, everything from the ages of 4 to 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I think that's worth mentioning. Now I want to move on, though, to what's about to happen. Tell me about Supporting Cast.
Supporting Cast is the stories of the supporting cast of my first 2 novels. So it's all the B characters, not all the B characters, but maybe 30 of the B characters. So there is the woman that adopted Jake is in there, the mother that adopted Jake. Carol is in there, Leon's father, Byron. Sylvia's in there, and Sylvia's a young woman in there, and you get to find out why Sylvia's the way she is. Crazy Rose. Also from The Trick to Time, Pestilence is in there, and William as a young man. Carl's in there, Andre's mother. Lots of people you'll recognise. If you know the books, you will recognise these people, and sometimes it's them as young people, sometimes it's them really far into the future of the books. And also there's people in there that you have forgotten about, like Wobbly Bobby and what became of him. And just really tiny characters that were maybe one line. It's all their backstory.
Okay, fantastic. When is that due out?
30th of July.
30th of July. Okay. Advance orders always welcome on every book, everywhere.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get down to what we're allegedly doing tonight. So you've picked, normally I ask for 3. It started as 3. It's become very flexible. People have just decided to start making their own number up, and I'm perfectly happy with that as well. So you get a bunch of books to recommend to people tonight. There are no criteria. I don't give rules to anybody. What have you chosen first, and how many?
Okay, well, in that, I didn't know it was 3. I thought it was 5. Now, I'm going to cheat in that case.
No, let's do 5.
So these 2, let me get in the right place. So Carson McCullers, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, and Leonard and Hungry Paul. And the reason I'm showing you them together is because this, I don't know why it's doing that, but anyway, Carson McCullers I read 30 years ago. And it's a book about 2 deaf mutes who become friends. One of them dies, and it's about the life of the other one. And it's really about outsiders, people that aren't noticed, people that don't, are just seen as the throwaway people of society, and who they befriend and what becomes of him. It's heartbreaking. It's beautifully written. I cannot recommend it enough. It was Carson McCullers. I think she was a really, really young woman when she wrote this, and it's shocking that she was that young, because the wisdom and the heart that's in it is beautiful. Strong recommend. But take the tissues. Leonard and Hungry Paul, what a book. I mean, I have recommended this since the day I opened the page. And the story of this book is, I get, like you, I get sent loads of proofs. So, 2, 3 books, 4 books, 5 books a week. And I always intend to read them. And you can't read them and live your life. But anyway, I knew this book was coming out. I knew it was for a small press. So I thought, I am going to really try and read that book. And I was up by the front door, postman gave me the book. I ripped open the thing and I stood there for an hour reading that book. That never happens. I've got the packet in one hand and I'm just there. I can't stop. And yet I would defy anyone to say there's a plot. This is the story of 2 very simple, very ordinary, very overlooked people, or could be overlooked people. And it's a real tribute to the power of kindness and ordinariness. And I haven't got a big thing going on in my life. I'm not a superstar. I'm not rich. I'm not desperately poor. I've got no drama in my life. But oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love it. And can't recommend it enough. And especially for now, because this book is about being kind, appreciating ordinary things, being happy with what you've got and appreciating how much you've got. And it's lovely, and it's written by an Irishman. So strong recommend.
I think it is one of those incredibly unique things that I had no real sense of the book before it was due to turn up. And you're right, it's from quite a small press in the UK. And it turned up and I went, oh, this looks really interesting. I like the cover. And I read, like you, the first 2, 3, 4 pages and immediately disappeared into it. And I think it's become one of those books that has now found itself snowballing into being nominated for awards. It was nominated for the Kerry Book Prize at Writers Week last week. It's becoming one of those books that in and of itself has become a word of mouth phenomenon. There's not a lot of those knocking around, and I think that's a very, very unique thing.
That's right, because normally the books that get a lot of press are the books that are pushed by the publishers with huge budgets and big PR moves. And this is something much more powerful, because this has made its way on its own by the quality of the writing, not because, it's somebody like I had behind me, Penguin, massive machine, publicity machine that can get your book into people's hands. This one has quietly, very much like the people in the book, quietly made its way into people's hearts. It's beautiful.
I think I am slightly telling tales out of school, but I'm okay with that. At the Ricochet Book Club Christmas party we had last year in December in Eason's in Dublin, and we always have authors who come and read, and Ronan was one of them, came and read a section from the book, and so many people queued up to buy the book and meet him that the store manager at the time, hello John if you're watching, said to me, I don't think I bought enough copies of this book in. And he hadn't, because they all sold out on the night because people had liked the book and the writing so much. So completely with you on that, absolutely. What else have you got for us? What's next?
This book, which is Colette. So Colette wrote it. It's called Sherry and the Last of Sherry. Really ahead of its time. A book from, might even been the turn of the century or 1910. It's translated from the French. And Colette was a bit of a woman ahead of her time. She was not afraid to write about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is the story of a courtesan, 2 courtesans actually. One of them has a son, and the one courtesan says to the other, as the son gets older, teach him about sex, teach him about wine, teach him about jewelry, teach him about flirting, because I want him to make a good marriage. So this 49-year-old woman has an affair with this 20-year-old guy, and she literally sets about educating him in the ways of the world. And the mother says, thanks very much. Now I've got him a rich wife. And so that young boy goes off and marries. And it's about this woman at 49 thinking, actually, I've fallen in love. It's absolutely brilliant. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it's one of the big taboos, the older woman with the young man. We don't have it the other way around, the older man with the young woman. But the older woman, that's, 49-year-old woman with a 20-year-old man, everyone's, thinks there's something wrong with that. It's heartbreaking. It's beautiful. It's way ahead of its time. And if you want a classic, classic you can really get your teeth into, that's the one.
Okay, fantastic. That's Colette. That's book 3.
Yes.
What else have we got?
Okay, I've got My Absolute Darling, and this is a proof that I got. So yeah. I also bought the hardback. I have the same one.
Yeah.
It is shocking story, beautiful. And I'll tell you what happened when I read this. Got another, again, a proof I got. Didn't know what it was about. Decided to read it, and I was so certain that it was going to wipe the floor with the awards that I hot-footed it to Goldsborough Books in London and bought a signed first edition. And I thought, I'll be rolling in it. I'll flog that book. When this is a real hit, I'll get thousands for it. So I'm just like waiting for everyone to recognise the genius that is this. I mean, the writer, I think, is 25. He looks like a child. And it's, again, really mature book. And no, people didn't like it. It didn't win any awards. It sunk, really. I was saying to people, you've got to read it. And people, it just did not resonate with readers. I still think it's a great book, and I recommend it all the time to people because I do want, obviously, my first edition to go up in price.
It's okay to have an ulterior motive of some kind of situation. That's perfectly acceptable. I'm with you on that, though. I have that same proof copy, which I read around the time, and I was like you. There were moments where I had it and had to leave it down and go.
Yes, too much. It was a very strong book.
But I remember enjoying it immensely, and you're right. It didn't seem to catch fire in the way that potentially a book like that should have. So that's My Absolute Darling by Gabrielle Talent. That's book 3, 4. Who's counting? I'm not counting. What else have you got?
So the last 2, again, it's a pair, is Donal Ryan. So The Thing About December, and his new one, Strange Flowers. So I'm going to talk about Thing About December first. So I read this years ago. And just the other day, I was desperate for an audiobook. I'd listened to so many audiobooks. I've probably gone through all the ones I like. So I thought I'll get this in audiobook because I could see that Donal was reading it. Oh my God, it's so good. He's so talented. I hate him. He writes the way I want to write. He does what I want to do with words. And then he's reading it. It's incredible. It's such a good book. I do really have problems with Donal Ryan. He's too good, and he shouldn't be allowed to write the way he does. And then this book, which is his new one, Strange Flowers, he's done it again. I'm just waiting. Can he not have a dip in form? Can he not make a mistake? No, he can't. It's absolutely beautiful. And just like all of his books, from a point of view of craft, incredible. As a writer, you just marvel at the sentences. But the story, the heart, the way it just hits you by surprise. It's about a young woman who lives in a very, very, very small town, and she can't stand it, and she goes to England. And it's about the loss to the community and to the family of that girl and what happens when she comes back. It's brilliant. I don't know when it's out.
I have two thoughts for you on that, one of which is my eternal shame that book has been in this house for about 5 weeks now, I think, at this stage. I've been reading for work hugely. I'm getting a prompt here beside me. And it's been here for a few weeks. I haven't had a chance to read it as of yet, although Liz has finished it the other night, and as you was just like, yeah, absolutely, it's as brilliant as everything else that he's written. If you ever get a chance to meet Donal in public, he is also one of the most extraordinarily lovely, and at the same time seems entirely unaware of his own genius, and I'm fully aware that his wife occasionally watches these. So hello, Anne-Marie, if you're watching.
Well, I'll just tell you one story about the Spinning Heart. So I bought the Spinning Heart before I'd written the book, and I picked it up, and I'm a sucker for a title, so I just thought, oh, I love that, bought it. And when I put it down, I can honestly say I was upset, and I was upset because I realised the standard that I had to meet if I wanted to get published. And I wasn't like, oh, read this book. I was just like, I hate him. I don't want to meet him. It's not fair. How can he do it? That's what I want to do. You know, I'm genuinely talking here. I was upset. And I had to get over it, you know, just to be able to write. You have to put your heroes to one side, otherwise you wouldn't bother. You wouldn't do it because you can't get there.
I think those are the quotes that the book press are going to use tomorrow. You know, what you've just said right there, it makes for perfect clickbait, and we might even use it for this. I think our time is up, sadly. Although I'm fully aware this has been a brilliant and a lovely and a wonderful experience, as I knew it would be. Thanks so much for taking the time out tonight to come and chat to us.
Thank
for
you.
half an hour, and good luck with the new book, and try and in some way take some small amount of break after what you've just been doing and before you're doing, although you won't because you're a workaholic.
Absolutely, you're so right.
Thanks a million for taking us into your house tonight and for chatting to us on Shelf Analysis. Kit Waal, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
And that is that for another episode of Shelf Analysis. That was episode 23 tonight. Another one for you tomorrow night here live at 7 o'clock in the Ricochet Book Club. You can catch all of the previous ones in the announcements section if you're in the Ricochet Book Club. You can, of course, catch them on the YouTube channel here if that's where you're watching, or on RTE Culture as well. Another one for you tomorrow night at 7. It's going to be a cracker as well. I'll see you then.